Jesus left you on earth because he has a calling for your life. You will never live for a purpose by accident. It's something you have to commit to. When Jesus calls, big things happen.
This is the Active Church. To God be the glory.
So I want to start out with this. John 3:16 talks about the fact that God so loved the world that he saved you. God loved you so much that he saved you through Jesus. He gave his only begotten son. In other words, the only son that was born of God. The only human being that was physically a child of God. That child, that very child, God gave him so that you could be saved. And what happens is if you give your life to Jesus and God saves you, then he gives you a vision of heaven. That's the first thing that he gives you. He gives you a vision of hope that comes after you die. In other words, if you really get to know God, you don't have to be afraid of dying. Because the closer you get to God, the more real heaven becomes to you. And so, you can have peace about dying. You don't want to die. You don't want to kill yourself. You experience what Paul experienced. To live is Christ. In other words, it's awesome to live, but to die is gain, because I'm going to be promoted. But you're only going to know that, and you're only going to feel that, and you're only going to sense that when you know God. All right? I just want you to think about this for a second. I want you to think about this, that God comes, he sends his son. You give your life to his son, he saves you. But then he does something strange. He does something very, very strange. He leaves you here. I mean, think about it. He leaves you here on this earth. This terrible place. This place which is full of sin. This place which is full of death, which is full of suffering, which is full of backstabbing. How many of you enjoy being backstabbed? Someone there loves one person. Well, one person. Do I have another offer? Is there a second? I hate being backstabbed. When someone stabs me in the back, I hate it. I'll be honest, I'll stab you in the back later, bro, because you like it. But I hate it. I hate it with a passion. And this is a place where we live in a world which is full of backstabbing. I mean, everyone complains about backstabbers, but most of us are backstabbers. You say, oh, how dare you say that? Well, it's quite simple. Have you ever spoken behind anyone else's back? Yes, you backstabber. In fact, every time you walk in the room, they should bring in the psycho music. You understand what I'm saying? Because you stab people in the back. And this is a place full of backstabbing and all sorts of nonsense. I don't like nonsense. But this world's full of nonsense. This world's full of nonsense. I mean, really, at the end of the day, there can't be more nonsense than there is in this world. And yet God leaves us here when we're saved. And, I once upon a time wondered, but if God, if you saved me, then why did you leave me here? Why did you leave me here? Why do I have to go through this life and then maybe one day I'm going to have a painful death or something? Why did you leave me here where I'm going to be persecuted? And not only did you leave me here, but through your son Jesus, you promised me I'm going to be persecuted. You promised me, you said, mark my word, Gavin, you're going to be persecuted. Why? Why me? It's not because of you, Brut. But then why are they clapping me? It's because of Jesus. They don't know him. The ones that don't know him are going to clap you. And you're not going to enjoy that. So the question is, why would he leave us here? I mean, if you think of it, God could be quite a sadist. Why would he leave us here? And the issue is that Jesus gave us the example of why he left us here in Matthew chapter 4, verse 18 to 22. And we looked a little bit at the story, but we're starting a new series today, and that is God is calling you. And I don't know if you realize, but before I go into this passage, God is calling you. The reason he's left you here, he's calling you to something. And here we see, as he called the disciples in Matthew 4, starting at verse 18, it says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were on a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing their nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father, and they followed him. Immediately, they left the boat and their father, and they followed him. Jesus left you on earth because he has a calling for your life. Tell the person next to you, Jesus left you on earth because he has a calling for your life. Listen to me. There's a purpose for your life. You have a purpose. That is why he left you here. Not only in terms of heaven, you have a destiny in heaven, but you have a destiny here on earth as well. Before you graduate, before you're promoted into heaven. He's left you here for a purpose. And that is the whole purpose of a church. Is that a church is full of people who found salvation. Their spirits were dead and now they're alive. And it's full of people, not only have they found salvation, but they found purpose. They have a purpose. They're living for a purpose. And they're living for the purpose on purpose. You will never live for a purpose by accident. It's something you have to commit to. It's something you have to give your life to. If you don't do that, it's not going to happen by accident. I just recently saw a movie called World War Z. Not the greatest story in the world. There you got Brad Pitt and his family. And they're sitting in a car in a traffic jam, and this motorbike rides past with a cop on it and knocks their mirror right off their car. And he gets out, what's going on? And you see some explosions and things going on. And the next thing, you see these people all running, and they're all running away. And then you see these things that are like bouncing around, you know what I mean? Almost like monkeys, and they jump up and they're biting people. And then the people after 10 seconds, and their eyes change. And they become those things, and they go and start biting people. And then you find out these oaks are zombies. And so Brad Pitt and his family, they leave the area where they are. They go to another city close by, and they go and they raid a shop for some food, and they go into a block of flats, and they're sitting there, and they're sitting in the block of flats with another family. And Brad Pitt saying, listen, when the sun rises tomorrow, we're going to leave. And he tells the other family, you guys are welcome to come with us. And the father says, no way, Jose, because they're Spanish, so Jose, okay. But anyway, they say, no way, Jose, we're staying here. And he says, listen, I've got experience, with situations like this. I used to work for government agencies and stuff, and I used to go into war-torn situations. And what I found was that in chaotic situations where people are dying all over the place, it's usually those that move that survive. Those that stay in one place normally die. And anyway, the next morning they move and they get to the top of the building, and this helicopter comes and fetches Brad Pitt and his family, and the rest of the family dies because those other Okies get in there, but the son leaves and comes with him, and the helicopter takes them off onto a ship, and those Okies can't get there because they can't get across the sea into the ship. And so now they're all on the ship, and they're all safe, and everything's happy. And then they tell Brad Pitt, we want you to go to India, because we want you to go and find the source of this disease, and we're asking you to take this doctor with you, and then they can find the source of this disease, and then everything will just be cool. And he says, no ways, I'm not leaving my family. Yeah, and then they say, look, but if that's the case, then you and your family are leaving the ship tonight, because there's only place for essential personnel to stay on the ship. All non-essential personnel have to leave. The church is like that. There's two thoughts that came out of me about this. In terms of the church, those who are Christians, it's usually those that move that survive. And when you say those that move, you might be wondering what I'm saying when I say those that move. I'm talking about those who are moving, following Jesus. It's normally those who are following Jesus that survive. They move after Jesus. But also the church can only hold essential personnel. One of the things that I've seen, and I've seen it in churches all over the place, is that modern Christians that are not involved often fall out of church. If they're not involved, they often fall out. That's why we encourage people so much to get involved. All right, and yes, sometimes it takes a sacrifice, and sometimes it's tough, but what I've seen is that, not always, but very often, those that are not involved fall out. What I want to tell you is that when Jesus calls, big things happen. When he calls you to something big. When he calls you to something bigger than what you ever thought you could enter into. He calls you to do bigger stuff than you ever thought you could do. I want to tell you, as many of you are sitting here today, that if you're not following the plan of God for your life, you've got a small little view of your life, which is much, much smaller than the view that God has. God's view for your life and for what you're going to do and for what He wants you to do is so much bigger than your own view of your own life. It's so much bigger. What you're thinking of and what you're wanting to do is absolutely nothing in comparison to what God's got in store for you. Why in the world do you think that the Bible would say there that those guys, they left their fishing boats, they left their fishing nets, they left their father and they followed him? They knew this is a man that can take them to their destiny. Now, how does Jesus work with you? Well, first He sees you. And then He calls you to follow Him. Matthew 4 verse 18 and 19a. Just listen to this. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, He saw the two brothers, Simon called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said. First thing I noticed is that these guys were going about their normal lives. That they were going about their everyday, ordinary, normal lives. They were doing what they'd always done. They were doing what, as far as they were concerned, they were always going to do. They were doing what people that were called fishermen do. They were fishing. And what I want you to realize is that when Jesus sees you and He comes to you, you'll be doing the ordinary. Whatever you'll be doing is ordinary. And then Jesus intersected the ordinary. He intersected the ordinary of their lives with the extraordinary. He intersected the ordinary of their lives with the supernatural. He intersected the ordinary of their lives with something far bigger than they thought they'd ever be a part of. I mean, just think about it. These guys are thinking they're going to be fishermen for the rest of their lives. They didn't know that because this guy's calling them, that if this guy calls them, one day they'll have fire sitting on the top of their heads. Okay, now normally that's not very cool, you know what I'm saying? Because you're either going to be bald or dead. Or both. But these guys had fire on their heads, and when the fire came on their heads, they started speaking languages that they didn't understand. Under the power of the Holy Spirit. They didn't know that that was in their future, because Jesus came and He intersected the ordinary with the extraordinary. And He's coming by today, ready to intersect your life with something extraordinary. I want you to realize that they were busy at work, and Jesus came and completely changed their diary. Next week, we've got to go and fish for whales. Change the plans, guys. We're going, no, not hake. We're going for people. But I want you to realize, when Jesus calls you, He will change your diary. He will change your diary. Some of you, He will come, He'll change your diary, and you know what will happen? You'll start doing things you never thought you could do. You know you've got certain talents, but you know when Jesus comes into your life, you find out about talents you didn't know you had. The second thing we see is that after Jesus sees you, then the good news, He will transform you completely. He will transform you and change you completely. Matthew 4 verse 19b, and I will send you out to fish for people. Jesus called these men and promised to transform them into fishers of men. He's calling you too. And if you answer Him the way they did, He will completely transform your life too. He promised, you will no longer fish for fish, you will fish for people. Now your fish may not be fish. In fact, living in Joburg, there's probably not too many of you that are fishing for a living. If you are, you're probably very poor, because it's not a good place to fish. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know, if you're a fisherman in Joburg, really, you need some counseling. You're not going to find many fish here. You want to go hunt buck and make biltong. Yeah, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? You'll find those okies around here. But those little things that swim, you might be able to catch a few there in the Vaal Dam. But even there, you have to go like 100 k's south of Joburg, you know what I mean, to find the Vaal Dam before you can fish. So this is not a good place. So whatever your fish is, and it's probably not fish, but whatever your fish is, you will no longer fish for fish, you'll fish for people. But in order to fish for people, He has to fix you first. You can't fish for people if you're not fixed. And that's what I want you to understand, is that before He can use you, He needs to heal your soul. If Jesus is going to reach people through you, He needs to get you to the place where your soul prospers. That's what the Lord's after, is that you will prosper in your soul. That you'll prosper deep down here in your innermost being. And then once He gets you to that place, finally comes a challenge. Jesus calls you to leave everything. And now you say to the person next to you, oh, that sucks. No, I didn't tell you to say that. I'm saying you're saying that already. All right? And you don't believe me. Some of you are saying, no, this guy's lying to me. Eh? Well, Matthew 4 verse 20, at once they left their nets and followed Him. He calls us to trust Him with our lives and to follow Him. Trusting Him means that you need to put yourself out on a limb for Him. And I want you just to think about that for a second. Putting yourself out on a limb for Him. You know, to move from being a fisherman to a disciple requires that you leave your nets and that you follow Him. Now, if you're going to leave everything, and I want you just to imagine this, you leave everything to follow Jesus, that's going to make you feel incredibly insecure. You're going to feel seriously insecure if you do this. You really are going to feel insecure because all of your stuff, I mean, that's part of what makes you secure. What makes you secure is what you can do and the stuff that you have. And even if you have a little bit of stuff, you feel secure because of your little bit of stuff. It's like the one guy that used to live over the road here. I mean, he had nothing but rubbish. He'd get plastic bags and broken things all over the place. In fact, next thing there'd be a thing about this high around where he stayed, just of rubbish. And that guy, all of those broken papers and pieces of planks and all sorts of stuff, that made him feel secure. Even though many of those things attracted a huge amount of flies, it made him feel secure. Our stuff makes us feel secure. You know what the stuff makes you feel like? It makes you feel like you're in control of your life. To become a disciple of Jesus requires something big. And I want you seriously to look at this next verse. Luke chapter 14, verse 26 to 33. 7 verses that will change your life if you get what He's saying here. And He speaks in very strong language. And it says this: if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And if anyone does not carry his cross and follow me, cannot be my disciple. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost and see if he has enough money to complete it? For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, this fellow began to build and was not able to finish. Or suppose the king is about to go out to war against another king. Will he not first sit down and consider whether he is able, with 10,000 men, to oppose one coming against him with 20,000? If he's not able to, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and ask for terms of peace. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything he has cannot be my disciple.
If you give, you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full measure, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more and running over. Whatever measure you use in giving, large or small, it will be used to measure what is given back to you.
Your special offering is an opportunity for you as you allow your faith to stand up and become part of growing the active church by planting your seed into it. We're using this year's special offering to kickstart a fund that will be used as a seed that will one day grow into our new building.
The newborn King, who knew what he could bring, a holy child, asleep so tender and mild, Jesus the Son, chosen and marked by your love. Jesus, we bow in awe of your glory and grace. Glorious star that led me to the King Jesus, laid in a manger for us. Glorious star that led me to the King Jesus, laid in a